My name is Chris Piascik. I am 40 years old and I'm a rollerblader. I live in Connecticut and I draw pictures. I've been an independent illustrator for the past 15 years. I've worked with clients like Nickelodeon, Nike, Cartoon Network, Adidas, Google, Microsoft, and tons more. So I've been skating for my entire life pretty much. I think I started maybe around 10 years old, around 92. I was really into bikes at the time, and I had this bike that I got that I used to like race BMX with, and it ended up cracking the frame somehow. I was getting sent in for warranty work to get replaced, and it took like 6 months, and 6 months when you're 10 years old is an eternity. I was trying to find something else to do. Me and my friends saw some like Mountain Dew half pipe thing at one point. It was like one of the first rollerblading things on TV. We were just really into it, and we found some old Chicago skates in his basement, and we would just like take turns using them, like trying to learn how to do tricks and stuff like that. And I was just hooked from then on out and been skating ever since. I've been drawing pretty much my entire life. It was like my favorite thing to do when I was a kid. Some of my earliest memories of drawing were like just trying to recreate the artwork that was on like the music albums that were around the house. For some reason I was drawn to those. A lot of them had like cool covers, and I really liked drawing the band's logos and stuff like that. Then one time I was doing this, I think it was like my uncle, he was like, "Oh, you're gonna be a graphic artist one day." And I didn't really understand what he was talking about, but he was like, you know, that's someone's job, they make this stuff. And the idea that that could be a job just completely blew my mind. I remember at career day at school, everything else sounded horrendous. Like I don't want to be a cop, I don't want to be a fireman, I don't want to be a doctor. So I knew I was going to be a graphic artist. Went to art school for that, became a graphic designer, and I thought that was perfect. But somewhere around that time, I started a daily drawing project and was posting new drawings online every day. And after about a year, I started getting commissions based on those drawings. And then a couple of years in, I was just doing illustration full time. And 15 years later, here we are. As a freelance illustrator, I get to work on all different kinds of projects, whether that's like advertising or editorial. Sometimes it's books, and it's really nice to just be able to do all different kinds of projects. It's always something new, and that keeps things interesting, never gets too boring. On the side, I'm also teaching some classes online through Skillshare. And then I also have my YouTube channel that I'm using to sort of drive people to my classes and also just get more visibility for my work. You know, just always trying to see what's next and have fun and just make weird drawings. When Create Originals reached out to me about doing some laser engraved wood frames, I was really excited about that process and how it would work. I've been making stuff for them for a very, very long time. Before, you know, when they were first just starting out as their brand, I made tons of graphics for them. I was really interested in how my line work would translate. They showed me some examples of the detail they could kind of get, and I was really impressed with just how tight of an engraving that they were able to do. And I wanted to sort of explore the different ways that the mark making could translate onto the wood. So I tried to mix in a lot of line work and like flat areas, but also using like halftone patterns to just really play on the depth of material through the laser engraving. My inspiration for these graphics was just sort of kind of diving into the weird stuff that I draw. I like to make all kinds of like weird characters, and just sort of blending that weirdness with skating and just like having references to rollerblading. I love the idea of just like putting in like weird swords and knives because I like to draw those things, but also being like, oh, it's fine because it's about blading and blades, and you know, it's just a stretch, but it allows me to put weird stuff in there. And then, you know, half pipes and just different lettering treatments for Create Originals and OG, and just sort of merging that all together into like a weird jumble is one of my favorite things to do. Basically, it was a lot of just doodling, playing around, drawing little shapes, and then once I was sort of comfortable with where that sketch was going, I just sort of tightened it up and then started playing with different sort of textures that could really enhance that engraved look, whether it's like the halftone patterns or the detailed line work on the ramp, and just mixing it up so there's lots of variety in the texture of the frames. Because that's the biggest thing about the frames, they're engraved, they're not just a flat graphic. So the fact that there's like that 3D element to it, I really wanted to play with different ways to show that. When I started working on the graphics for the frame set, I was just sort of playing around, doodling like I normally do, just drawing some weird stuff and seeing where that kind of led me. And I decided that I would just keep it loose like that and play around with different elements and just sort of work them together. One of my favorite ways to draw is to like draw something small and then draw something next to it that sort of fits into that shape. So that's sort of how I went around making these graphics. Like I drew that little quarter pipe and then like was like, oh, that round shape would work well with like the OG lettering next to that. And then just sort of other weird stuff that I like to draw, weird faces, weird creatures, throw in some little blades to tie into blading, and just keep it fun and not too serious. So I do nearly all of my drawing in Adobe Fresco app on the iPad. The reason I like that app so much is that I'm able to work in both raster and vector artwork within the same app, and just the drawing experience on the iPad itself is just so good. I have so much control over like the different brushes I can use because I can incorporate brushes from Photoshop, and I can also make Illustrator artwork as well. Because these frames are laser engraved, I wanted to make sure that the line work was just really, really tight. So I worked with vector brushes within Adobe Fresco, but I don't like to start working that way. I like to keep things loose. So I will just use like a pencil brush, like a pencil raster brush, and just sketch with that within Fresco. And then once I get the artwork where I want it to be, I just like bring down the opacity, make a new layer, and start drawing in vector artwork on top of that so that I can have it nice and as tight as possible so that it would translate really well when it was engraved. So the collection is built around these frame graphics, but then we also added a shirt which takes some of those graphics and expands upon them and has like this bigger jumble. I just wanted to take the frame graphics as a starting point and just evolve that and like make more stuff that sort of fit together. So all the elements from the frame are in the shirt graphic, where it's a big jumble on the back with all kinds of weird stuff. And on the front, we've got that little quarter pipe that is from the frame graphics. And we also have Sharpie. I used to do all of my line work with a Sharpie on just paper and then like scan that in and color it. I was so obsessed with like the perfect Sharpie that at one point I actually got a Sharpie tattooed on my arm. This was one of my earliest tattoos. As a result, we thought it would be fun to add a Sharpie to this set as just sort of like a throwback to the way that I used to work, and also that even though I work digitally now, the line work is still very Sharpie-like. It's just that like clean black line. So that just sort of ties the whole package together. And now that you have this Sharpie, you can just flip over the graphics that you already have and draw your own graphics on the back, and you can put whatever you want in your frames. So because these graphics are laser engraved into wood, this is going to be a limited run of 25 sets. And we thought because it was this special crafted wood that we would treat it more of like an art piece. So each set of 25 frames is going to be signed and dated by me, which I guess I don't know who else would sign it, but I'm going to be signing them, and it's a super limited run. It's a really fun package. I think you're going to like it. I would say that I'm thankful that I get to keep working with you guys and doing stuff, sort of tying my two passions together with art and illustration and rollerblading, and sort of making some fun stuff, and you guys always being open to my creativity and letting me do my thing. So thank you for that.